Please be seated. Thanks so much. Appreciate Valley Smoke for hosting us again. We've done other events here, and I think they had a law enforcement focus as well. So it's always great to be back in St. Johns County and Ponte Verde Beach, our old stomping grounds. And I know there's a lot that's going on. And we're joined here today by a lot of our who's who from law enforcement, Commissioner Mark Glass, FDLE, Colonel Gary House, Director of the Florida Highway Patrol. We're going to hear from a trooper, one of our state troopers, Virginia Hatch. We also have Representatives Michael and Kendall from Northeast Florida, so I want to thank them for coming here, and especially, Rep. Michael has been really, we just signed this big immigration bill. We're making it a crime to enter Florida illegally. We're able to hold local officials accountable. Locals have to participate in immigration enforcement, no bail for these criminal aliens. Like, there's a lot of really good things that people have been asking for a long time. Cayenne, really, from the beginning of our administration as just a private citizen, an angel mom, helped us get the sanctuary cities ban passed. That was important, but it's really, unfortunately, with Biden, it didn't matter if you were sick, because he was he made our country a sanctuary. But now, you'll see if any locals try to do it, and then we even have more ability to go. But she's been a part now in the legislature of really bringing this stuff in. Now, there's a lot of work to do to implement. We're going to have some great announcements over the next week in particular, but I'm really excited that Florida's leading the way yet again on an issue that's really, really significant to our voters. Now, another area that we've led on over the last many years has been our unwavering commitment to law and order. And that wasn't always the case in some parts of the country. In fact, even many parts of the country wavered for some of those years. For us, that was never anything that we contemplated. And not only did we reject the defund the police movement when that was raging during the BLM riots of 2020 and in the ensuing years, we actually signed legislation in Florida prohibiting local governments from defunding their police forces. We are not going to let asinine policies take hold in the state of Florida, whether it's at the state or local level. We also we responded to the BLM and that was just something that we thought was important to do, partially because there was a lot of hostility to law enforcement at the time. Part of it is people were doing a lot during COVID and all this stuff to really step up to the plate. And I think we're probably the only state in the country that did that. And look, the results speak for themselves. We've had good policies. Our crime rate's at a 50-year low in the state of Florida. But what we also noticed was there's a lot of dissatisfaction and low morale around the country. in a lot of these police and sheriff's departments. I remember I was in California a couple years ago. I was talking to a police chief in like a very nice part of Southern California, and I was just like, "How are things going?" He's like, "Well, I'm doing really well. It's just all my police officers want to move to Florida now. And that used to not be the case, right?" And so we saw this. We saw how people were treated in Chicago, in Seattle, New York City, some of these places. So we enacted the Florida Law Enforcement Recruitment Bonus Program. So everybody, all new recruits are eligible, whether you are police force, a sheriff's department, or one of our state law enforcement agencies, you qualify for a $5,000 bonus upon signing to join the force. And we recognize that as a way to recruit good people who are being treated poorly in other parts of the country, but also to incentivize our own people here in Florida, our young people, to view law enforcement as a viable career. And I would not recommend going in some parts of the country, quite frankly, but I think here I would recommend, because I think you'll be treated well by the community, by the state, by leaders, and you'll have an opportunity to really make a difference in people's lives. And so we have been able to the out-of-state transfers, we've got almost 1,600 over the last couple years that have come from some of these other jurisdictions, and they're now in different police forces. I don't know, you guys have probably had some transfers from other, and look, I haven't talked to all 1,600, but the ones I talked to, none of them regret moving and working here in the state of Florida. We've also done we've done 7,200 new recruits from the local and within our state, people that are coming that are new to law enforcement. So this has been a big deal. We've done almost $50 million in this. We also created a Florida Law Enforcement Academy Scholarship Program. So it's tuition fees and up to $1,000 of educational expenses if you're in a law enforcement officer basic recruit training program. And if you think about it, we do like Bright Futures Scholarship if you go to university, which is fine, but why would we not also want to help and provide opportunities for people who are going in to law enforcement? And I think that's really, really good. So this is it makes economic sense to go into law enforcement because we've provided some benefits, but it also is something that is favorably viewed in Florida. And again, that's not true in other parts of the country. We also are doing things about law enforcement oriented education in our schools. And so school districts are now encouraged to establish public safety telecommunications training programs as well as law enforcement officer career explorer programs in public schools. And one of the things that they're doing is increasing interactions between students and LEOs to help build relationships, because some of these students may come from places where they're told to not like law enforcement, and so when they see that and they see what's being done, all of a sudden I think it provides really positive education. So we're really, really proud of that, and we want to keep doing more. But if you think also about what we've asked, this is just for the state law enforcement, FHP, FDLE, some of our other folks. We have been at the tip of the sphere from the time Biden opened the border. We jumped in and we did stuff in Florida, but even helped Texas at the border. Florida was the first state to send people to the border. I had Highway Patrol, FDLE. They were doing a lot of rotations there. Massive numbers of people coming in. I mean, they were able to interdict a lot of really, really dangerous people coming across. And some of these people would have made their way to Florida. There's no question about that. They were telling us that they were interested in coming to Florida. And so that Operation Lone Star was something that was really, really significant. You also look at what our state law enforcement have done just more recently. We're in February, coming up in March. Last year, I talked to the mayor of Miami Beach because I don't know if you saw, like after COVID, Florida was open, so everyone would come. And the spring break in Miami Beach, it turned into a total clown show. It was bedlam. And that's not good for quality of life. So I told the mayor, I was like, listen, let's not do that this time, because we had to send Highway Patrol in to help mediate this anyways. I was like, why don't we get ahead of it this time? So they had a great plan. We had our state LEOs that were there helping. And then so last year, 2024 spring break was like the smoothest spring break
that they had ever had. These businesses were happy, the residents were happy, and so we're going to be doing that again. We've got our guys, particularly with FHP, they're around and all these. And look, Miami Beach was kind of the most significant, but Florida, we go through these iterations. I mean, Panama City Beach used to be, and then they had to do things. And so we want people to come and enjoy Florida, but we don't want the inmates to run the asylum in Florida. And so that's what these guys have really done good, and it's made a difference. Also, in terms of interior enforcement of immigration laws, we announced last week, or actually earlier this week, a agreement between Florida Highway Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement to exercise, and they will train our FHP troopers so that they will be able to exercise the powers of immigration enforcement. So, for example, it's really important. So now, if they pull somebody over who's driving erratically or driving under the influence, and they're here illegally, you can do in whatever for local offense, but ICE can come pick them up or not. And if ICE doesn't have the ability, they can't. You're not authorized to just become an immigration agent without going through training. Now, they'll be able to have an illegal alien, not eligible to drive here, not eligible to be here, and they'll be able to bring them directly to ICE for processing and repatriation. So you're going to see a huge, huge benefit for them to be able to do that. So that's called the 287G agreement. We were one of the first states in the country to do it. We have been the first state in the country to respond legislatively by putting a duty on all of our local law enforcement agencies to participate in these immigration enforcement efforts. But we have FDLE. They were down. They're busting these Chinese illegals. Are down in South Florida, like massive numbers of Chinese illegals. I'm like, why are they in Florida? Why would Biden would just let them come in basically? And so they're going. They just busted this illegal for child porn that should never have been in the country to begin with. They busted the Venezuelan gang members. They've been doing a lot of busts on those gang members. And so this is working with ICE to go in and to remove illegal aliens from our communities, which is ultimately what you need to do. So as we now get ramped up with all this, you're going to end up seeing ICE embedded with like the sheriff's department here. So they're going on normal missions. Oh, you know what? Some of these people are illegal alien gang members. We're going to grab them and we're sending them back. So this is really what you need to do. But our guys have been at the forefront of all this. The legislation, we wanted the legislation for a number of reasons. But we wanted to make sure that all law enforcement knew they had a responsibility to assist with the enforcement of federal immigration law. Obviously, they're not going to do anything that the feds aren't willing to do, but we can't just sit on our hands if we want this to succeed. But the state, I mean, I had directed that anyways. I mean, I didn't need the duty because I was imposing it from my constitutional authority. And so you have FHP as this agreement. We're going to be announcing FDLE with a similar agreement to be able to work there. And, part of the problem that we've noticed with the feds is Biden decimated this agency. And so all these programs where you would integrate local, they just totally fell by the wayside. So these guys are working really hard up there now under the Trump administration to stand this back up. But you got to put these guys through certain training. There's certain things that need to be done. So we're ahead of the curve. We're ready, willing, and able to help as soon as the feds, bring down stuff. We're going to go, and that's why I wanted to do this special session and do it early so that we were ready to roll. But our state folks, I mean, we've been involved in this fight for a long time. Yes, Biden was not a good partner, but even during Biden, we had our guys out on the water in South Florida. You remember a year ago, Haiti had a lot of problems. I mean, they always have some problems, but they had a lot. People thought you're going to see a massive influx of people arriving in South Florida from Haiti by boat, and they were like, there was a lot of kind of fear-mongering about that. Well, we did Operation Vigilant Sentry. I did an executive order. We put vessels down. We have great radar. We've interdicted in the last year and a half almost 18,000 illegals on the sea. There's just the state, not even counting the Coast Guard. and then we turn them over to the Coast Guard. And if you catch them on the sea, the Coast Guard will bring them back. So we've been doing that anyways, and that's even with Biden, because Coast Guard is trained to take them back. So this is something that's been really good. So I don't think it gets enough attention what your state law enforcement personnel do, because they obviously have core missions, keep the highways safe, certain state crimes with FDLE, but they've done a lot more, and they've been called upon to do a lot more. And so we want to recognize that. First of all, just recognize it publicly, but then also be able to talk about this next year's budget and what we're recommending to the legislature, because I do think it's important. And not that everyone does this for money, because obviously you're not going to be super rich being in law enforcement, but we think it should be something where you can earn adequate income to have a good middle class lifestyle. And we have done stuff with our state law enforcement since I've been governor, and we're happy to have done that. We've also done stuff with corrections, but we need to do more. So I'm pleased to be recommending almost $120 million in pay increases for 4,700 state sworn law enforcement officers, as well as more than 700 of our state firefighters. And so this would mean a 20% pay increase for state entry-level LEOs and a 25% pay increase for veteran sworn LEOs that have been protecting our communities, obviously, already. And then all of our state firefighters will also get a 25% pay increase. So we think these are important vocations. We want to make sure that we're keeping good talent. Now, the reality is if you don't do that, it's not that they don't want to serve, but if they have other opportunities, then you lose them. Heck, you can lose them to the sheriff's department. You can lose them a lot. So we want to make sure that we're doing our part in the state, and I think it's something that I think most Floridians support. This is not a large amount of money in the context of the overall budget. I mean, it's a small fraction, but I think it'll be very, very meaningful, and it will ensure that the good work that has been done will be able to continue. So we are proud to recommend this. I know the legislature will come in March and start working on policies and working on budget, but this will be meaningful, and we're happy to be here to endorse this, and also to be able to bring some people up to be able to talk more about it. So I am going to introduce right now our FDLE Commissioner, Mark Glass.
Thank you, Governor. I do appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to everyone. Governor, my father, I'm a son of a trooper. I'm a trooper. My son's a trooper. And public services has been in our family for years. I've talked to my father, and no one, and we've been around a lot of governors and a lot of leadership, no one has ever done more for law enforcement than our governor right now, Ron DeSantis. In a time when I had to go through a lot, watching my officers on the line and working with QRF, of Highway Patrol, FDLE members, being bottles thrown at them, cussed at, everything, even at the border or even over here, and knowing that they were here for a public service reason. They want to do good. They want to do something. And then you have citizens out there that do not share the same sentiment. But in the state of Florida, a law and order state as much as we have here, championed by our governor, I will tell you, we stood strong. We stood side by side no matter what color uniform you had on, and we got the mission done. You did something stupid in our state, we went out and found you. We went to other states to get you when you did something stupid. We tracked down. One of the best ones I ever had was up in Massachusetts. We tracked him down, and the trooper we were working up in Massachusetts, last name was DeSantis. And it was on his affidavit, and he didn't like Florida, he didn't like our governor, but we loved the whole process. It was one of the best things I ever had. But anyway, I just want to say, Governor, from the bottom of my heart, our families, we do appreciate it. I cannot tell you, it may sound like a lot, 25%, and it is a lot to these families. And 20%, our recruitment and retention has gone down drastically based on all the programs our governor has done for our great state and protecting our citizens. And all the stuff that we are doing, the governor talked about immigration. We have done so much behind the scenes. The one we were talking about with the HSI, we just worked an operation with them, child molester, Nicaraguan, and we also recovered the live child, 6 years old. So we are working in these type of atmospheres all the time, and we are out hunting, and we're out looking for those people who are child molesters, sex predators, that are and career criminals that are breaking in and doing stuff, these gangs, these TDA gangs. We are going after you, and make no mistake, we will find you and get you. But Governor, I just want to say again, you have been an inspiration for this great state, and thank you for everything that you do for us, sir.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis, and I want to say thank you for your leadership, but not just thank you for your leadership, but not just in words, but in actions and results. So thank you, sir. Also, it's always a pleasure to be in historic St. Johns County. Our Sheriff, Rob Hardwick, thank you, sir. We have in Florida the best sheriffs in the nation, and you're the top of the list, Sheriff, so thank you for being with us here today. Thank you. Florida is a law and order state, as Director Glass, or as Commissioner Glass said, and your state officers, your state law enforcement officers, your deputy sheriffs, your city police officers, all of your first responders feel blessed that they are serving in the free state of Florida. So thank you. It's initiatives like this that make that feeling where we know that our chief executive officer has our back. And that's a big deal to a police officer, I assure you. Recently, in recent years, the governor has signed many bills in support of law enforcement, but I'm going to talk about two of them in particular. But House Bill 3 in 2022, it supported recruitment efforts. We talked about the bonus program. For the Highway Patrol, for your Highway Patrol, that was a big deal for us. We were able to capture quality law enforcement officers from other states that were not supported, like the governor said, to come here in Florida. I've talked to our sheriffs, our police chiefs. All of us have benefited from that program, so thank you, Governor, for that initiative. Thank you to our legislatures for making that happen. Also, recently, here in 2024, Senate Bill 184, the HALO bill, which prohibits people from approaching police officers and harassing them while they're trying to do their job and protect all of us good citizens. So thank you for that. That's just two examples, but for the fifth year in a row, the governor has included in his recommended budget increases for law enforcement in Florida. Thank you. I also want to thank you and also our First Lady, Casey DeSantis, for your staunch support of law enforcement in Florida. And again, not only is it recognized by our police officers, but our citizens, that permeates into those we serve. And it's not uncommon for our troopers, for our police officers around the state to stop for a coffee break somewhere, or to be out assisting a disabled motorist, or to be assisting a victim of a crime, and have that person talk about how proud they are to be in Florida, in the free state of Florida, and have the service that they have here, and it's because of your leadership, sir. So thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. First, let me apologize for my nervousness. The majority of my public speaking is roadside with just a couple people. So most people know me as Virginia. A few select counties know me as Trooper Hatch, and a couple little people know me as Mom or Bro. I'm honored to wear this uniform. Becoming a trooper is one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. My kids are so proud of me. I put my life out there every day, and they're very proud. I'm excited to share with you that my daughter is actually in law enforcement now. She accepted her role as, it's not a trooper, but she's going to be a detainee assistant at the county jail where we are, and all while she's going back to school to pursue other things as well. As a single mother of two, the additional funds will improve the quality of life, and the pay increase will allow me to better support my family. This proposal also shows that me and my fellow first responders are valued, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And as important as this is, I mean, honestly, it's not the biggest lift in the world because of Florida is in such good fiscal health. And that's not true in a lot of the states around the country. But we have big reserves. We have paid down. I mean, I just like with Washington, I mean, they're just adding debt, massive debt. I mean, it's unbelievable how much is happening. And in Florida, if you look at our state's total debt from 1840s to the present, just since I've been governor, we've paid off 36% of that. We're looking to knock out more over the next couple years. And we have the lowest per capita debt of the entire country here in Florida. We, of course, have no income tax, and so we have one of the lowest per capita state tax burdens in the country. We're usually in the top 3. Sometimes we're 1, depending on how you do it. And then get this. You look at what's going on in Washington. There's a lot of nonsense that's being exposed, which honestly, I think we've known this has been going on. Congress just never did anything about it. But you have Musk in there working on some of this stuff with this Doge. Well, Florida, we have the lowest number of state workers per capita in the entire country. So that's like the smallest government per capita in the entire country. And if you look, compare us, so California has the most people, then Texas, then us. And then New York used to have more people than us. Now they've got several million less. And yet our budget in Florida is less than half of New York's budget. Well, the thing is it's just they tax. And then they charge tolls, unbelievable tolls around New York City. Now they have this congestion pricing, which is gouging people too. So you have all this money going in there. They're spending it. But then what are the results? When people from New York move here, they tell me our roads are better. They tell me that it's easier to get a driver's license. They tell me the schools are nicer. So, and obviously we perform better on that. And so, where is all this money going? So it just shows you, if you give government an inch, they will take a mile. And you have an ability to make sure that you have a very lean, mean fighting machine. And I think that's what we've done in Florida. And I think that's part of the reason why we've had success, because people can look at the state and say, yes, no income tax, all this stuff. But there will never even be a need for one, even if someone wanted to try to do it, which obviously I would block. But because we're solvent. Some of these other states, they're going to try to tax their way out of the mess they've created. It's not going to work, but it will impose a lot of different burdens on people. So we're excited about it. Now, inflation, the last 3 or 4 months is accelerating again, and this is going to be a big problem if Congress doesn't reduce the amount of money it's spending. Because the reason why you have inflation is because of the massive borrowing, printing, and spending of money that's occurred in this country in recent years. And so, you now have Republicans in control, and they need to stop that. If they keep doing it and they accelerate from where we are currently and they adopt the Biden spending levels and even increase it, I think that's going to fuel the inflation fires that we're seeing right now. And Milton Friedman, the great economist, he used to make the point that, you may not have a balanced budget on paper. We don't in the United States, obviously. We do in Florida. But he's like, in effect, you do have a balanced budget no matter what happens. Because if government spends too much and borrows, you do pay that. They may not tax you directly, but you're indirectly paying that because you're paying more for everything with inflation and interest rates and all the things that are happening. So if you just look at the costs that you've had to assume, particularly over the last 4.5 years, that outstrips any tax increase anyone's ever proposed. But it is an indirect tax increase, and it's being driven by the Fed, the Congress, and everything like that. So we've been able to kind of go forward and grow our economy and everything in spite of that. But I'll tell you, where the problem is, and we really would like to see some solutions here, and you got to be bold. You got to think big, and you got to be willing to rein this in. They're even talking about, they show some of this stuff with USAID and some of the nonsense, and now you hear Congress saying, well, we're still gonna fund it. Really? I mean, why would you want to just let the bureaucracy run amok like that? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's I think if they took a page out of Florida's playbook, I think they would be able to get our federal finances in much better shape. Okay, do we got any questions? Yes.
two-parter for you. One was hoping to get your reaction to the passing of Senator Thompson, and two, abortions were down 28% last year. Was curious if that's kind of met the policy goals with the 6-week legislation, and whether we might see some additional action on abortion in this legislative session.
Well, Casey and I send our condolences to the senator's family. I was surprised to see that news this morning, and I know she meant a lot to a lot of people, particularly in Central Florida. And she's been in the legislature, I think, since I've been governor, and we have actually worked together on some issues for that. Look, we've been able to save lives, and people, that matters to a lot of people. It may not matter to everyone right now, but it matters to me, and we were able to do something that's made a difference in young people's lives, as we'll see as they grow up and have a chance to live the American dream. So clearly, if you believe in a culture of life, that's a positive indication for sure. Yes.
Yes, Governor, I want to tell you a quick story and then a question. I went to got a speeding ticket a couple of years ago, wound up going to court. While I was there, we had to wait 30 minutes for an interpreter to come into court because 25 out of 30 people could not speak English. So I had to let them go in front of us. So what I want to know is, how are people who can't speak English getting driver's licenses in our state?
Well, so we do not allow driver's licenses for illegal aliens, period. Not only do we not allow driver's licenses for illegals, we don't recognize other states who issue driver's licenses. So if California issues it here, that is not recognized in the state of Florida. And not only that, you had local governments that were trying to issue photo ID. Maybe not would have been driver's license. We banned local governments for issuing photo ID to illegals, and we even said nonprofit groups, because that's what the left was going to do next. No nonprofit. So you basically can't have an ID card issued by state government, local government, or even private groups if you're in this country illegally. And I think that that's really important now. So you have that. Now with the legislation that's passed, if somebody's driving here, they don't have a license, they're in the country illegally, right then they've committed a crime because they've entered the state illegally. Then you have the ability to hold them accountable for driving. But then with the deputization of Highway Patrol and our locals, which will happen, you immediately are able to turn over to ICE. And one of the things I saw, and Cayenne can attest to this, if you talk to these angel moms who've lost, and actually angel wives, angel moms, I mean, they've lost kids, husbands, you name it. When you have these fatal accidents with the illegals, it's almost always that the illegal had been arrested for bad driving prior and just kind of released, and no one really did anything about it. And I think what we're doing now in Florida, given that we have a new administration with the Trump administration who's going to take this seriously, is say, we can't just keep churning people out until someone ends up dying. That doesn't work. And so you're going to have much better enforcement on the interior of this country. Look, it was hard with Biden. I mean, when Biden came in, even people that had served prison sentences, it was hard to get ICE to come pick them up from the state penitentiary. And so we don't, they won't accept them. So what, they end up getting released because they've already served their sentence. So the state lacks authority at that point. Those days are over. So we're ahead of the curve in Florida, but there's going to be a lot of implementation that happens in the coming days. Weeks and months, but no one's going to be more aggressive than we will be.
Governor, 2 questions for you. Number one, since unfortunately Senator Thompson did pass away, do you have any ideas of who will fill that vacancy? And 2, what does immigration enforcement currently look like in training for officers? What do you want that to look like with your new bill? And will that also impact our resources for ICE?
So a state Senate vacancy is not filled by the governor. It'll be a special election. We usually wait until the elected official is put to rest and everything before we really charge into that, but we will set it. We'll try to do that as convenient as possible for the local officials. And so it's not my appointment, and needless to say, that's a district that probably wouldn't vote for a candidate I would endorse anyways, and that's fine. It's a diverse state, not as diverse as it used to be. You got a couple blue dots still. Most of it, our rest is red. but that's okay. And so, well, look, so the training, so when you do the 287G, there's certain reimbursement stuff the federal government will do, which makes it viable, I think. But a lot of that training actually just went defunct during the Biden administration. So they're kind of in the process of standing all this up. We'll be ready to do what we need to do to be able to make an impact. And I know a lot of our guys are eager to do it. It will, because some law enforcement say, well, like we're not going to be a sanctuary, but just let the feds do it. We don't want to deal with immigration. And some people believe that. The problem is, like, if you actually work integrated with the feds and we have robust enforcement of these laws, you will have more public safety. Like, you will. There's no question about it. And so it's kind of misses the forest for the trees if you say, well, let the feds just handle that. We'll just sit on our hands. Obviously, we've had ban on sanctuary policy, so you can't sabotage what the feds are doing. Now, with the new legislation, you have an affirmative duty to help enforce immigration law, and then I, as governor, have the ability, we can fine the officials and even remove them from office if they're not on the team. So that's going to be as the tip of the spear here.
Whether the agent is potentially facing charges.
Well, so first off, the Nassau County is handling that case. So what you were talking about coming to the wee hours of the morning when it's dark 30 out and they're playing this game and you see 3 people going across your Ring doorbell camera with silhouettes of appears to be a firearm and in and around your front yard, just like the sheriff said there, this is not an officer involved shooter, this is a homeowner, right? This is a homeowner at their house. So we're going to push that. Bill Leeper and the Nassau County, they're working that whole thing from start to finish. And but we do know that there's been things going out to other schools because this has been evidently a game that's been kind of being played out all around multiple neighborhoods throughout the state. So the school officials. I think are getting involved now and sending stuff.
How this works is the state, we don't, I mean, obviously under Biden, it was verboten for us to do anything in terms of deportation. Like, we can turn it over. They a lot of times would release or not. I can tell you that on our Operation Vigilant Sentry just in the last year and a half on the water, we ended up with almost 18,000 interdictions, and we know they were repatriated by the Coast Guard because we turned them over and got confirmation on that. How these numbers will play out under the Trump administration, I think will obviously be better than Biden, but I do think it'll take some time as they get stood up. So, like, we can arrest an illegal alien or a group of them, turn them over to ICE, and, obviously we don't want them released back in our